Hey there, it's Lauren. I'm here with Lisa. We're part of Art is Moving, and this is one of our conversations we're having for the Take an Art Break Symposium, Art is a Lifeline. And we are super excited to have Mary Rockwood Lane with us here today. And Lisa, you know Mary, so tell us.
I do. I'm really excited because two of my favorite collaborators are right here. Lauren, we've been collaborating since 2008 with Art is Moving, and Mary, we have been collaborating since 2017 with the Artemis Sacred Journeys, where we take women to Greece on women empowerment retreats. So I'm really excited. So happy that you're both here, and welcome, Mary. I would love for you to introduce yourself to our community, your history and what you do,
Right.
what you're doing right now.
Okay, great. Well, I'm Mary Rockwood Lane, and I'm very honored to be here. And my commitment to art as a lifeline started out in actually about the beginning of 1990s, where I had my own personal breakdown, and I discovered art as a way of healing in my own life. And I was in a depression, I was in a breakdown, and I threw myself into making art really for the first time in my life. And what I discovered, I was shocked. I discovered that art was this powerful life force that came through me. I discovered how much I loved art and painting, which I had never done before. And I had this incredible healing experience, and it was so wild, and I was so excited that after I went through this process of painting these portraits and painting and painting and painting, I decided I wanted to bring art into healthcare. So at that time, I created something called an Artist in Residence program, where I invited artists all over my community to go into the hospital and explore what we could do at the bedside with patients. And up until that time, artists had not been working at the bedside with patients other than in the discipline of art therapy or music therapy. And this was very different. This was inviting community artists to come in. We actually started on a bone marrow transplant unit and actually began to make art with patients at the bedside. And the experience was the artist, the musician, the poet just made poetry, just sang a song, just drew with the patient, and that's what they did, and it created this kind of incredible experience for the patient and for the artist and for the family that was healing. And it wasn't quote unquote therapy. It was actually this very beautiful lived experience of an artist sharing their art with someone, and they made art, and that art actually was their lifeline. In a bone marrow transplant unit where people were really, really sick, sometimes just making and drawing was the lifeline. It was what kept them involved in what they'd sort of discovered this artist within themselves, some of them that didn't even know they had it, the same way I did. So it was an incredible experience, and it grew into this arts and medicine program where artists came in. Artists started working in the emergency rooms, in bone marrow transplant units, in heart transplant units, setting up concerts in the hospital. And suddenly there was this opportunity for people to engage in their creative process in a time when they actually needed it the most. Sometimes when someone just got recently diagnosed with cancer, suddenly they discovered that writing poetry for the first time in their lives was actually their lifeline to their soul,
Wow.
quite literally.
Yeah.
And so I discovered it then, and my work with that was bringing artists in, exploring the possibilities, what art could work in different environments, and really focusing on how art can be transformative in someone's life. And I even did research on it. I even, did my dissertation. Was in graduate school. I did my dissertation on what was the experience of people using art as a way of healing. And what I discovered is that the people, the participants in the study shared that it was a deeply, profoundly spiritual experience and healing at the level of their soul. So when you talk about a lifeline, that lifeline for me, it's like that thing that goes right through your heart, right to the depth of who you are as a human being. And that's what they described it to be. So I have been my life transformed by art. When I was sick and having a hard time, it was like my lifeline was painting, getting out of the depth of that sadness and despair by expressing my sadness and despair through the creation of my art that allowed me to process this incredible energy that was going on in my life and be able to move through it and discover I was an artist and discover that artist in me was actually my healer. That was amazing.
Wow.
That's amazing.
So I was shocked. I mean, I was like,
wow.
this is amazing. Everyone is a healer. They can heal themselves. And I realized everyone is an artist. So, inviting people to step into their artist, step into their creativity, taps them into their life force. So that was remarkable. That experience was remarkable. And, hospitals, the hospital I worked with at UF, the Shands Hospital, we created this arts and medicine program, and it's still working today. It's also created a whole field where hospitals are bringing artists and art into their hospital and clinical settings. And it's like returning to what it means to be human, because in ancient times, I'm pretty sure, the arts, song, dance, poetry, that's what were the tools and the ways in which we tapped into the healing powers within ourselves. And the healers actually activated that part of ourselves in the journey of our healing. So it was a lifeline. Drumming, changes your consciousness, or you go into this place where it's sort of, you go into this rhythmic place of healing, and it changes your brain waves. And there's so much research now that supports this. It's amazing. So what I'm doing now is, I've been teaching. I have a course online called Healing with the Arts. And since the pandemic, I wrote a book called Healing with the Arts, and books are fun to write, but they kind of like come and you do all this work, and then it's, everyone's going to go buy your book. So anyway, I decided that I wanted to put everything I wrote in my book online. And I worked with the University of Florida and the Coursera. And I created videos, and I did this whole thing to engage people in making art. And during the pandemic, I have over 75,000 people who've signed up in that course. And I meet people all over the world.
Wow.
You can take all of it, you can take part of it. It doesn't really matter. It's just, how do we re-engage in our creativity? How do we re-engage in what we're most passionate about? How do we re-engage with what is truly our desire that takes us back to what our lifeline, not what we go outside of ourselves, but we can pull from within. That lifeline within ourselves is amazing. So now I'm doing something that I just started, which is really great. Since the pandemic, I started interviewing nurses and asking them how we could. It was before the pandemic even started. It was right at the beginning, how we can create the future of healthcare. And it was really interesting to listen to futurists of what could be possible for nurses. But at that moment, I became very passionate on how can I inspire nurses to evolve and become change makers in the healthcare system. And one of my ideas was, well, the arts, reclaiming the art, the creative power within us. We can open up the possibilities of who we are as human beings. We can discover things about ourselves we didn't know. And we can actually, by doing this, step into a creative way to create the future of what healthcare can be. And I decided that my course, I took the course Coursera, and I focused it on nurses.
Mm.
And since nurses are so burnt out and so exhausted and suffering, and there's despair and there's rage, and there's this really been a very painful experience that nurses have gone through since the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
inviting nurses to create art expressing their experience of what has been.
Mhm.
And it's opened up this amazing dialogue with nurses and caregivers
Mm.
to heal, you know, throwing them the lifeline of being an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. I love the idea of it. Like, gosh, everything. Obviously, I agree with everything you're saying. That's why we're doing this, to just inspire each other and just hear the amazing things that we have done and are doing and are continuing to push. But with with the nurses, it's as though you're healing them and you're telling their story at the same time so that other people can
Mm.
sort of garner some more understanding. That's one of the other major powers of art is the power of telling
Oh,
your
yeah.
story or
Yeah.
a story to open someone's mind and their perspective about what it might be like to be in a certain position. And I think it's several folds, but at the very least you're giving nurses an opportunity to heal themselves, but also, well, heal themselves by telling their experience,
Mm-hmm.
but also by experiencing art. And I just think there's so much power in that. So what are some of the things you've heard back from participants?
Well, it's been amazing, since I started this it's called Nurses Guild Community, and the whole focus is to create a forum where nurses can express their creativity, to support each other
Mm.
and for healing for themselves. Because I think when we share our art with others, it cracks us open and deepens our humanity and deepens our connection with each other. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the nurses, for example, who experienced COVID and experienced tremendous suffering with COVID, started posting images that she had drawn of herself, like
Mm.
drawings, and then posted the spoken word of what that experience was like for her. And it was like she was raising her voice, expressing herself, expressing, I feel, a pain where there was a sense of isolation,
Mm.
a sense of loneliness, a sense of not anyone really understanding the depth of her experience.
Yeah.
And in this forum, we provide is a safe place through your creative life to express your truth, express your pain, express your suffering. I think art is like when I first started painting for the first time when I was needing to heal, I actually went into my darkness. And I was able to express my darkness in a way that was witnessing my own transformation, witnessing my own experience. And one of the things I experienced when I was expressing my feelings and my pain and my story through my art, I actually cultivated the I witnessed myself. I had insight, like I saw myself for the first time and I actually saw the depth
Mm.
of my human what was happening to me through my art.
Mm.
It was like my art was the storyteller, not only to others, but to myself.
Right.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I can see what's happening to me. And I've never had a more powerful reflection of myself than through my art. It's I suddenly understood myself in a way I didn't understand myself before, and I can see that's what happens when other people share their own art. They see themselves. And
Mm.
one of the beautiful things I found that's healing about art is, when, like, for example, this nurse was sharing her story with this group, suddenly she was not alone
Yes.
in that experience. Suddenly everyone else was there with her.
Mm.
Suddenly in the expression and experiencing her art and her truth, her sincerity, her authentic presenting of herself through art, there was this deeper, deeper connection with her. And she felt it, I felt it, and others felt it. It's like you create a community around you. And that's what's so beautiful about art is moving. You know, it's like moving into giving yourself that space and time and being part of a movement that you're sharing with others and that you guys are facilitating. That suddenly you're not alone anymore.
Yeah.
And
That's
that in and of itself is so healing.
that's true. It's so beautiful. I mean, with the nurses, what you're doing is really, I feel, is really profound, because when I think of nurses, I think of their holding space for everybody. You know what I mean? And it's not about them. It's always about the other people. You know, I got to take care of, got to take care of people.
Yeah.
So I think that's really profound that you're giving them a voice,
Yes.
and that they're being seen for
Yeah.
the first time, and also that that reflection, that community that you were talking about. The art becomes a mirror. But then I was also thinking, I mean, what you're saying is so profound. It's just like, wow. But it's like art is the lifeline. But then you become the lifeline itself. Once you feel the transformative power of
Oh,
art,
yeah.
and you go into the darkness and you share your suffering, and you share you, right?
Right.
Then you become like the lifeline. You are the lifeline. You are the art.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, you know,
And
I
I
love
love
that,
that.
Lisa. Where, right, everything is art and everybody is art. Everybody's an artist and
It's
everything.
true. It's
Yes, and
true. Everyone is an artist.
it is. I hands down agree with you, and I've been in several discussions with people about that, about everybody being an artist, and that everything. I mean, I view everybody as an artist, and I view everything as art, good or bad, a
Right.
positive or negative.
Yes.
So it's just all of it. Because for me, art is very experiential, and I think
Exactly.
my question for you is, because you gave your personal story of discovering art. If you could think back to how did you decide to do art? Because I think, because in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. How come everybody's not doing this? Why, why is this something that
Right.
Lisa and I have been sort of shouting from as many mountaintops as we possibly can for a very long time? And why isn't everybody doing this? Why are we still trying to convince people that this is one of the best things for them to do? And so was it that you tried so many other things and then they didn't work, and then you just were like, fine, I'll give this a try? How did you do it?
Well, I think we live in a culture that we actually live in our minds. We're thinking all the time. We're thinking and we're talking, and talk therapy is the same kind of thing. And I remember I was in therapy at this time. I was devastated at this time. I was talking about it at this time. And I'll never forget this. I walked out of the therapist's office after like 50 minutes, and I walked out. I walked in with my despair, and I walked out with my despair.
Right.
Okay. Then I was very dramatic. I looked at this puddle on the ground and I thought, I just want to throw myself in the mud. I am miserable. I want to throw myself in the mud. And I was in my body. And I wanted to do something. And my girlfriend, who was an artist, now I'm not a painter, rolls down the window. She comes by. She goes, Mary. And I go, what? She goes, would you like to go to my studio? And I'm like, oh, I guess so. I can't do anything right. She goes, well, I'll just put some stuff in front of you. You don't have to worry about doing anything right. And I'm like, okay, well, I can just, instead of wallowing in the mud, I can wallow with crayon dash crayons. And I can just get muddy with all this color all over the place. But what I did was, if you think about it, I was in my body and my body needed to release itself.
Mm.
And at that moment, I felt my body crying out to be express something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And your head is a different place entirely.
Right.
And I think when you were doing the workshop and if you just start scribbling,
Mhm.
and you quiet the mind, there's a bridge that you cross
Mm.
from the
Mhm.
mind and thinking to this. Like I remember in the workshop that Lisa did with me
Mhm.
just the other day, Take a Break, it was like you could feel yourself moving out of your mind into the scribbling, and there was this like physical, like moving and scribbling and looking at the color, and I dropped into the body.
Mm.
And I remember now that you think about it, what was that trigger for me? It was when I dropped into my body and
Okay.
I went into the feelings and
Mhm.
said, I've just got to get this out of me somehow. And there's no way I can talk to anybody about it. It's just,
Mhm.
I don't even have anything to say about it anymore. I just feel it. I just feel it. And that's when I started painting, and I painted from a place of needing to do something different,
Yeah.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
needing to do something different and needing to do something with my whole self.
Your whole self.
Because when I went into therapy, it was like I was talking from here up, but the
Mm.
rest of me nothing was happening down here in it was like I needed my body. That's why dancing is so powerful. That's
Mm.
why painting is so powerful. That's why music sort of moves us. It moves our body. We're moving. That's why singing, it's like you go into your belly and you just start singing. It's so bodyful. I mean, I don't know.
Bodyful.
So
That's good.
bodyful. And um, I think that's the shift, and that takes a lot to get
Yeah.
people into their
That's
bodies. But I think
right.
people, if you say, "Go into your body, feel you're in your body," which is what you do in your workshops, like, wow, it comes right out of your body if you just open the doorway like a portal. You know,
Yes.
Lisa
Mhm.
talks about art being a portal. Art
Mhm.
is a portal, but there's a portal inside of us.
Right.
But when we open it up, it emerges into the portal of art.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think
Nice.
gosh, yeah. I couldn't because I'm a very cerebral person. Like if you looked at my personal art, very, very planned. And I planned it out. I was laughing with Lisa the other day because I dream about planning. That's
Oh,
just
wow.
who I am. I
Great.
am just kind of planning, and it's for this. It's for art is moving stuff, and so I'm very much in my head most of the time. And after listening to you, I was like, well, gosh, does that ever happen for me? And the time it happens for me is when I create artwork. So I create artwork that's interactive for other people to connect with one another. Sort of, I
Beautiful.
call it like tricking other people to make art that wouldn't normally do it,
Great.
but it's basically it's to connect them with themselves and their community. And that's when I am no longer in my head. I am in that flow. Lisa talks about it being flow. I'm
Mhm.
in that flow because I have let go of control, because I can no
Mhm.
longer control the art because I've handed the paintbrush to someone else. And that to me is when my portal opens. So that's so interesting. Thank you for making me figure out where that moment for me is, because it is, right?
Yeah.
When you it's detaching yourself and becoming sort of expanded and reduced at the same time. You're all things and nothing at the same moment,
Mm.
right? Because it's
Beautiful.
not like I'm not using it all. I'm just not using it in the way that I think I'm supposed to, in a way.
Exactly. Well, what you're doing is you're dancing with the muse.
Yes.
There's you who's doing your art, and then when you open, and you're not in control and you're interengaging with a lot of other people, suddenly I feel like there's the portal opens,
Mm-hmm.
the divine muse comes in, and suddenly that intuitive, creative spirit that's greater than ourselves, but that is, I don't know, when I work with other people in groups, it's like sometimes I witness something in
Mm-hmm.
the group shifts and
That's right.
something greater than themselves starts to emerge, and
That's right.
something I never could have planned on manifest that it would have been impossible for me to even think this up, because just the fact that it's happening now is, I don't know, like a miracle or something,
Mhm.
but it's always when someone has unleashed their creative, I'm making this up, this creative song inside them, whether
Yeah.
it's a song or an art or a poem, it's like something creative inside them comes out, and it's as if they're dancing with something that's greater than themselves and the design and divine, and we're witnessing it with them, and because of this, the dynamic, it's perfect. You couldn't plan for it.
It's true.
To me, that's when I think, "Wow, life is art."
Yeah,
We couldn't
definitely.
make this up.
Yeah.
We
It's
couldn't
true.
plan this, you know what I
You
mean?
couldn't
It's
you
true.
couldn't plan this. I love that. You couldn't
It
plan
is
this.
something larger than yourself. And I mean, we see it. I see it when at Art Break Day. I mean, we saw it when we first did Art Break Day, where there was like hundreds of people creating together, and all of a sudden there is like this kind of energy, and something shifts, and people open up and they start talking to each other, and you can see. I think it is there. They see their humanity, but also what I'm thinking. Also, when you do tap into that that muse, that that's something larger than yourself, then and everybody around you starts doing it, that's when the magic is like, it's electric, and people are so happy. People are like, oh, I can be myself.
Mhm.
And you
Sure.
see me as myself, so
Yeah, yeah.
so
Yeah,
beautiful.
and it's that right, and I think, practically speaking, you can call it it doesn't matter about, like your friend said to you, it doesn't matter what you create, it's the fact that you're getting it out of your body, and we talk about it not being it's a no judgment zone, but it's that it you can feel it, right? You talk about
Mhm.
feeling a room, you can feel the
Visceral, yeah.
plaza when
Mhm.
that switch has been hit and everybody's open. And they're
Exactly.
experiencing something that I don't even think that they're aware of how powerful it actually is.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I mean, yeah,
So,
it's hard to
what
have
I
a
wanna say,
conversation about
Lisa had us do a drawing, had do us a drawing. I thought this was really beautiful. She, as one of the art breaks, she had us do this beautiful drawing of a figure eight, and you draw it, and you're doing the energy, and you're putting yourself into it, the color, the movement, the experience of it, and then she said, "Put your hands over it." I
Yeah.
was like, "I feel something."
Yes.
I thought that was sweet. I thought, "I feel energy here." So art is creating an energetic pattern in the
Hmm.
world,
Hmm.
and it has this ripple effect, like, if I could see a lot of people being in a room together, that everybody's energy suddenly
Hmm.
starts moving, and one person's having an experience, another person's having an experience, another person, and suddenly there's this shared energetic
Yeah.
field where everybody's sort of creative, excited, looser, innovative, and they fall into it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're doing that's so amazing. Our lifeline really is to me, in my mind, is a lifeline is that silver thread that comes out of ourselves to move into being connected with all that is.
Oh,
Oh, I like that. I like
that's
that a lot.
beautiful.
Yeah.
It's really, all that is, and that we do belong to each
Oh.
other, and we are connected to each other. And this art is an expression of our uniqueness, our beauty, our beingness,
Hmm.
and then at one level we're unique, at another level we're all together in the same
Yeah.
way. It's an
Yeah.
amazing experience. I think it's magical, but I think in the future, we're gonna know more about this, how
Mhm.
we all are really more connected than we think we are,
Mhm.
and, I think art actually is the cutting edge of transformation.
Yeah.
That's so true.
It really
Yeah.
is.
I
It's the
think
art.
I think it'll help us figure out that stuff. I mean, I think
Mm.
this conversation has made me think a lot about, I talk to my kids a lot about emotions and
Uh-huh.
regulating and things like that. And I'm a big proponent of talking about your emotions and not
Yeah.
hiding from them and being comfortable with being uncomfortable and all that kind of stuff. And this conversation has made me think about that because you were talking about it carrying things in your body. And I talk to my
Mm.
kids about where do you
Mhm.
feel it in your body? Where do you
Yeah.
feel the story that you're telling me in your body? Because I can tell that you're feeling anxious about it or whatever.
Right.
And we talk about how do you get it out of your body? And I'm trying to help my kids find we talk about it, your personal art break. And
Yeah,
talk to other
Yeah.
exactly.
people about it. And I'm trying to help my
Yeah.
children figure it out for themselves because I don't know what it is. But
Right.
I ask them like, what can help you loosen it? Like if you feel it in your shoulder, what could you do to loosen that in your
Right.
shoulder? Should we draw right now? Should we do some flips in the backyard? Should we jump on the trampoline? Should we bake a cake? And just trying to give them all these options. So, my question for you with all that in mind of like, just thinking of I can see in my head these nurses like literally carrying so much. Like Lisa
Mhm.
was saying, they're saving
Mhm.
space, they're holding space, but they
Yeah.
also have a rock on their back right now. So
Mhm.
where do you see the Nurses Guild, in a couple months from now, but also a couple
Mhm.
years from now? And
Mm.
what's the future of that? Obviously, if you could plan it, but you, as you said, can never plan, right?
Right. I really feel the Nurses Guild, my hope is it becomes a platform where nurses feel like they're in a community,
Mhm.
when they're in a community where they connect to each other, and I think one of the most powerful ways to connect is through the expression of your creativity.
Mhm.
So my feeling is we're caring for each other, we're expressing our creativity with each other in what the creative is the form of really connecting with each other, and we're creating a community. And I also hope by uniting this energy
Mhm.
through art,
Mhm.
like what I said, I don't know if it's true, of course, through the deepest connection of our truth and the essence of who we are as humans, we actually are inspiring each other to be fully alive,
Mhm.
fully expressed, fully experiencing ourselves in a whole body experience. Because nursing is an embodied profession. We
Mhm.
work with our bodies, we feel our emotions. We don't just use our head to do what we do, we use our voice to do what we do. We're artists, there's an artistry to nursing, and our bodies are part of our art.
I
So
love
not
it.
only are we expressing through the arts, but we're seeing the work we do as an art,
Oh, I
Mm.
love that. Yeah.
you know?
Yay. Beautiful.
Mhm.
And, looking at another human being who's in pain, and imagine looking at that other human being in pain through the eyes of an artist.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
How would that change your experience
Mm.
of seeing that other human?
It's
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Just
It-
that alone,
Yeah.
Right.
that
Right.
Wow.
alone way of seeing would dramatically shift the clinical, sterile objectivity of what science has taught us to do as human beings
Wow.
versus what art teaches us to do as human beings. It's
Yeah.
totally different.
Mhm.
Wow. It's the new paradigm. I love it.
It
Just
Yeah.
is.
beautiful.
Yeah. Well,
It is,
it's
and
more it's about connection and,
Right.
storytelling and collaboration. What popped in my head is like, well, as an artist, what I do is I would look at that person as a future potential collaborator because that's what I do all the time through my art. And then I was like, that would be amazing for a nurse to just look at someone they're caring for as a future collaborator to have an experience or make art with. Wow, that's awesome.
That's
exactly,
amazing. Or
exactly.
beauty, like see them through the eyes of beauty, right?
Well, for example, I'll share a story. We had a young woman who was making art with with an artist in a room, for example, and the nurse walks in and the patient is in bed making art. And then they start putting their art around the room. And suddenly the nurse sees the patient in a different way than she saw them before.
Yes.
And she can see the drawings of the inner world of that human being.
Right.
And suddenly what I realized about art, I thought, oh, we're going to bring art into the hospital and art's going to be healing and art's going to be this and art's going to be do that. Well, it's true. But what I discovered, the most fundamental preciousness of art is art became a way to create human connection and human caring.
Nice.
When you share your creativity or someone experiences your creativity, you are stepping into a sacred space with that other human being.
It's true.
You are stepping into a power of presence with that other human being that's fundamentally caring. You see each other, you witness each other, you hold space for each other. To me, I never would have thought that's what it was going to be, but that's what I noticed. That's what I experienced that it was.
Wow.
I thought, wow, this is so much more than I thought. It's not about just making art. This is about human beings caring for each other.
Wow.
Yeah.
You can feel that when you see art in famous pieces of art. You feel it's like you feel it.
Yeah.
Suddenly you feel something on a deeper level than you felt before through the experience of the art. So it's amazing what art does for us. It is a lifeline to our humanity. It is. And if we don't have art in our life, to me, it's like, I don't know who said it, art without art, a life without art is like death or something. I don't know, that dramatic or something.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I say. I think that's really
Really, art is amazing, and it's also the mystery because we don't know what art is capable of. Once we open up, I mean, this conversation is so opening, but once you open up to more of what art can do and the power of art, I think it's limitless.
Yeah,
so
I know.
amazing.
I know that we wanted to ask everybody we were having a conversation with, how is art a lifeline? But I feel like we just we just covered it. I feel like I could listen to this conversation 100 times and learn something from it each time. So thank you so much for taking the time.
I am so passionate about this.
Yeah.
I didn't know what we were going to talk about, but it's so funny. It's like you ask me some questions and it's like something just comes out. Whoa. I am so passionate about this. I could talk about it forever. So I just want to say thank you for honoring me to ask me and thank you for this experience. I love being able to share what I dream about.
Yeah, I think that it's I think that we touched on a lot of important things, and I also feel like I experienced the thing we were talking about, what you experience when you make art, which is like this flow, and I don't even know where I went, but I know I felt really good while I was there, and I know that it was a very important conversation. I think your story is an important one to tell, so keep on telling it.
Yeah.
I think your work is extremely, extremely important, and so thank you for that. And I look forward to continuing connecting with you in the future.
Of course. Yeah. We've got the rest of our lives. We just don't have enough time in the day. That's okay. That's okay. We're always supposed to be where we are. So this was perfect today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Beautiful.